Hey guys, I'm here on EVO 2017 Day 1 with Pierce, Zero's coach, and we're going to be asking him a bit about Zero's approach, Pierce's approach to the tournament. Pierce, what would you say your mindset going into EVO this year is?
Well, obviously, EVO is an event that we prepared an awful lot for. We've been really excited to come play here, and we understand that the event is of a great magnitude, very important. So our mindset going in was a couple of things. One, we would need to make sure we stay in winner's bracket, because when you have such an enormous quantity of players at an event, it's really, really easy to get caught off guard by something and get upset. And EVO is all best of three. There's not best of 5 sets until like the very, very end. So in order to prepare properly for it, we looked at our bracket when it came out, and we made sure, okay, we need to stay in winner's bracket so we can prepare for this, and we know what we're up against. As long as we know what we're up against and we have a solid ground, we're going to advance into the higher bracket matches faster, and we're going to be able to approach it from a more prepared standpoint. So that was very, very important. That enabled us to study for our upcoming matches and make sure we go into everything with a fresh mind and a clear page of notes.
So give me a sneak peek of that bracket. Who are the killers that Zero has to watch out for? Who have you been writing notes on this past preparation period?
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because despite what I just said, I've spent a lot of time studying Rosalina. Obviously, Arm Saga was last weekend, and Zero lost it to Buzz. And it's really funny because if you were paying attention to what I was saying earlier, people were saying, oh, this player is most likely to upset Zero, and that player is more likely to upset Zero. I said, no, the Buzz is the only person at this event who can beat Zero. And surely enough, he got second. You could say that's a jinx, but if you watch the trends of how people are playing, what people are doing well against, what other people are doing well against, a lot of times people think that what's happening in who's successful in one event is necessarily indicative of who they're going to be in future events, but it's not really the case. You have to see how players are adapting their game plan and how they're preparing for things and where their mindset is as a player. That being said, to actually answer your question, in addition to prepping for Rosalina, there's a lot of Sonics in the bracket. There's one stage of the bracket where if we stay in winners and everyone stays in winners, we're going to have to fight the winner of Supergirl Kells and Seagull Joe, which are two different Sonics, so we've been prepared for that. And then Ken is also later in the bracket. Wow. So now Zero has fought Ken 3 times in recent history. And I actually think that the best of 3 scenario favors Zero, because in every set, I think, that he's fought Ken, except for EVO last year, he's gone up 2-0 against Ken, who brought it back games 3 and 4, and then Zero clutched it out game 5. So theoretically, that favors us a little bit more in a best-of-3 format, because Ken might take more time to adapt, but there's no way we can sleep on him because he's been very dominant. The bracket here at this EVO is very interesting because the players at it have been showing higher and higher levels of consistency. Recently, upsets have been less common, and the more players are developing as consistent power forces. So you have Zero, you have Ken, you have DeBuzz, very unlikely to get upset, I feel. Mr. R is also very unlikely to get upset. Leo, I don't know if I said, is also extremely unlikely to get upset. And so we have what I'm expecting is a bunch of people that are very consistently likely to get into the top 8. And just fortunately, our bracket is a very comfortable one where we're not worried about making it into top 8, but we have to make sure we respect all our opponents.
Right. And yeah, Seagull Joe, one of those first opponents to make a crack in Zero's reign way back when. As the role of coach, coaching is sort of a hotly debated topic within the community, how long it should go on for, if it should even be allowed at all. And Zero specifically has talked about how he feels as though he may get more flack for it than other people. Do you have anything to say about that and Zero's role within the community?
Well, it's definitely true that Zero does get more flack for it, and by partisan, I get more flack for it because we pioneer kind of a lot of things that happen. Zero's the #1 player. There's the most spotlight on him, and as a result, that means there's the most spotlight on us as a unit. This is not my first forte into being in the spotlight in coaching. A lot of the reasons that coaching was originally banned in the rule set was because of things that I had accomplished with coaching back in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So I'm no stranger to coaching coming under fire, and actually I was the one who directly pushed through the ban back when I was in the back room in the Brawl days, because I also felt it was an unfair element at the time in the nature of how it was. So I definitely understand coaching is hot, but we definitely do get some unfair flack because a lot of times there's just a lot of misconceptions. I remember the other day we were reading some comments online where somebody was saying, oh, it's so unfair how Zero was fighting Ken at Arm Saga, I think it was. And somebody said, oh, it's so unfair that Zero called a timeout and got coaching to like adapt to Ken and beat him, when really it was Ken who called the timeout and called over Renai, and Zero didn't even call the timeout or even have a coach ready or prep for the situation. So a lot of times people just perceive him, and because he's known as Zero, and because I'm very well advertised as Zero's coach, and as a duo, and the nature of coaching exists very publicized in that capacity, we do get a lot of heat for it, even though other people are understanding it's part of the metagame now and it's something that everybody should be utilizing.
Are there any players who you think coaching has really helped out or has the potential to help out and push them into the upper stratosphere of players?
Besides Hungrybox, like I definitely think, you know, for Hungrybox, it's a really big deal, because he's an extremely talented player on his own right, and Captain Crunch helped break the plateau that he was undergoing. In terms of Smash 4, though, it's hard to say. A lot of people herald Scat as an extremely successful coach. And knowing Scat, I understand his mind on the game, and I really respect both his gameplay and his game knowledge. But it's really hard for me to speak on other coaches, because coaches aren't exactly out here trading notes and sharing each other's coaching strategies and stuff like that. I'm generally not a big hoarder of knowledge, but obviously for the sake of competition and keeping my player ahead, which is very critical in this cutthroat esports kind of time. You know, back when I used to play myself, right? Despite the fact that I had collected all this knowledge, I would openly share it, because even if my opponents had knowledge that they could then use against me or spread out to other people, I wanted to just push the metagame forward as much as possible. It was the most important thing to me, and it was very important. And so I shared knowledge very freely, and other players shared knowledge very freely. But now, because of the age of esports, it's a little different, because you have to really protect your interests a lot, and it really changes the dynamic of how much information I can share with who. So because of that, it's really hard for me to judge and rate the effectiveness of other coaches, because I don't necessarily let them see exactly what I'm doing, and they don't let me see exactly what they're doing either. I do know that Panda Global picked up a really great coach. I forget his name, I apologize. But I know ESAM and MVD, the coach that they have reported that he's been working to great success, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Cool. Last question. You know, having surveyed the field, looking out for who might be a threat, who do you think might make a Cinderella story run? Who should people have on their fantasy brackets for this?
That's really hard, because EVO is such a massive event. Even if you cause an upset, there's so many top players here that it's really, really difficult to imagine, okay, well, you got through this one person, but are you going to get through this person and this person and this person? So I think definitely if there are players who you might not actually expect to see in top 8, I definitely keep an eye on Locust, because I know he's prepared a lot. Locust is an extremely explosive player, very dynamic, and he keeps getting better every time I watch him play. So that's great. I would love to see him do really, really well. And Kirihara is a player that I have an extremely great respect for. Not only does he play Rosalina, who I think is an absolutely broken character, but especially because I've been just studying so much Rosalina. He's just like, and Kirihara's playstyle is really, really good. Leans on consistency, and the Japanese players who are used to edging out Kirihara are spread out all over the bracket, so he's going to have a chance to just demonstrate his prowess over other American players and players from different regions, and I think that he's going to find himself able to edge out quite a number of those matches. So if he doesn't run into like Leo or somebody who just is very specifically good at dealing with Rosalina, then I think he's going to actually have a surprisingly great time here.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us, Pierce. Good luck this weekend. I hope you guys go on to do great things. Any last shout-outs, words of wisdom before we depart?
Definitely I have a lot of shout-outs. Shout-outs to everybody who really support me, because obviously I stepped out of scene for a long time before I came back as Zero's coach, and there were a lot of you out there who were just always asking me to come back, do more casting, which I promise I will do later in the year. But yeah, you guys really were a big part of the reason why I came back to the scene, because a lot of people just called for me. Shout out to all the people who are casting this event. Big shout out to the casters, my friends there, EE, TK, D1, and everybody else who's casting. I can't give you all individual shout outs, but you know who you are. And you know, shout outs obviously to Zero, and TSM has just done such a marvelous job of supporting me and helping me make it out to all these events, and I really appreciate that. Shout outs to Mike, who's just been doing such a great job at you know, making sure we always have what we need and getting everywhere. And, you know, big shout outs to you guys, of course, here at HCC. because, you know, without you guys, it couldn't happen.
Well, thank you for that, and thanks for talking to us. All right, guys, if you want to follow Pearson Zero, you can watch more of EVO 2017 live this weekend. Follow them on social media, watch the streams, and you can follow this YouTube channel for more content coming your way. Thanks so much.